As lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, we all have an inclination to the epitome of love. When we rejoice, when times are hard, whatever stage of life we are in, we all yearn to be in one special place. We all wish to visit the blessed shrine of Imam Hussein in the holy city of Karbala. Not all of us have the blessing to visit the shrine of Imam Hussein, but there is still a way to experience the sights and sound of the blessed land of Karbala in the comfort of your own homes.
We call upon you, dear viewers, to support us in our financial costs to help bring the Holy Land of Karbala beaming into your homes. You can support us with a monthly donation of just $50 or £30. We are your gateway to Karbala. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Imam Hussein TV 3.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah wa barakatuh and welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. This is a live show. We do take in your questions, so if you have any question you'd like to ask, please send them in via the WhatsApp number, should be on the bottom there. You can scan the QR code in the corner and that will take you straight to the WhatsApp page. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, please put your questions in the comment section and inshallah, myself and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer them. If you want to call in, 0203 515 0199. Inshallah, you get straight through to us and we can discuss your inquiry. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are we doing this evening?
Alhamdulillah, fine.
Fantastic. Sheikhna, the first question I have is from last week. And there was someone saying that, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna, how to refute those who say taqlid is from the Jews. Okay, so maybe some people will say that Shia Islam is from a Jewish person. They invented it and so forth. How do we refute these answers?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. Initially, taqleed of somebody who is most knowledgeable, for example, taqleed al-alim, is something logical, rational, because the aql would say to you that if you have a problem, let's say with your health, you go back to the expert, and that's the doctor. If you have a problem with your car, you go to the mechanics. If you have issues with your, let's say, kids' education, you go back to school, who can teach them, for example, in the best way. So the aql would guide us towards following or going back to the alim, the most knowledgeable in his field or her field. So taqlid is part of the aql, driving one's to the to be guided through finding the right source if you're jahil in something. So ilm ad-din, which is the most important for the human being, to be able to go back and ask those who know. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ. Of course, the greatest masdaq are Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam, but also the ulama who would interpret, who would deliver the hadith of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam to us, so they can drive the ahkam al-shar'iyyah from the Quran and the Sunnah and the hadith, and be able to practice those ahkam rulings. So you have to go back to the experts. You cannot by yourself, let's say, extract a hukum. Now we have, let's say, two hadiths. One says Ahl al-Kitab are tahir and pure, and one says they are najis. How can you work out? Do you have the expertise, the information, the ability to discuss the chain of the narrators, the meanings of the hadith, all that ilm of diraya and riwayah and rijal, to be able to come out with a fatwa that yes, they are tahir or najis. So we always go back to the experts in this field, in any field, especially in the field of fiqh and usul and ilm ad-din in overall.
Ahsan. Sheikh from WhatsApp, Assalamu alaikum. I would like to invest some money into the furniture company, but I'm not a partner, but will be earning profit. Is that permissible?
Yes, I mean, that's part
of a shareholder, isn't it?
Exactly, it's part of the trade. If it's a halal trade, it's not to do with wine, for example.
Shop.
Yeah, it should be fine. And then, I mean, all types of, let's say, businesses other than haram ones, one can actually invest and be partner and gain profits. We have it in the hadith which says, تسعة عشر الرزق في التجارة. That's 9 out of 10 of the rizq is through trade and business, making money through the business. So that's encouraged, by the way. So in the Sharia, yes.
Question here. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. I wanted to know that using words which are deemed to be racist, for example, the N word or the P word and so forth, are we allowed to say these words in Islam?
The Quran is very clear. وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ. Don't use the words in which would insult somebody. So one should refrain from using these words, the F word, as you mentioned, the N word, any word that would insult the Muslim brother, even by jokes. We have narration that even the jokes, you have to avoid it if it's, even if it's a joke. So don't say these things. That would downgrade, one's status before Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam, before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We want to see and meet them with pure tongue, with pure heart, with pure mind, and not na'udhu billah, the opposite.
From WhatsApp, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. I have a question. My son has been with a girl for almost a year. She is not a Muslim, and he's trying to make her convert, inshallah. But if she ends up not converting, can he still marry her? He is able to is he able to hang and be friends with her and get to know her in the time? He also said he has a mut'ah between them to do so. Please let me know. Thank you. Okay, so we've got a male and a female here. The mut'ah contract has been done. He's getting to know her and so forth. I guess the family want the girl to convert, but if she doesn't, can he still marry her? So first of all, doing the mut'ah to getting to know her, is that okay? Secondly, if she doesn't convert to Islam, can he still marry her?
Initially, we need to know what is her religion. So if she's from Ahl al-Kitab, that's fine. Up to this stage, they are fine, on the right track. If non-Ahl al-Kitab, then there's a problem. And even the aqd is not correct and valid. They have to separate. You cannot have any kind of marriages with short or long term with non-Ahl al-Kitab. And number two, in terms of the long term marriage with Ahl al-Kitab, some would agree, some would have different views. So again, it depends on the marja he follows. If it's to do with a long-term marriage with, let's say, Ahl Kitab, without conversion to Islam. So they can do so, but it depends on the marja they follow.
Fair.
Yeah.
From WhatsApp, can a woman perform wudu while wearing halal-friendly nail polish, whilst they state that the water permits through, but I do not have certainty the water reaches all areas under the nail polish? Okay, so, Sheikhna, I've seen this myself. There's such thing as halal nail polish, very popular in the Middle East. So the nail polish has been made semi-permeable, so water gets through and can get to the bottom of underneath the nail polish, and it can reach the nail. Sometimes they have special ones that you just put water on it and it washes off, and you can perform wudu like that and so forth. Others, it's permanent, but it's what we call soluble, which allows water to go through it, and water will reach the nail and so forth. The person here is saying that's what the nail polish claims, but I don't have certainty that it can do it or not. Am I still allowed? There's a halal friendly sticker on it. All the science has been explained. Am I still allowed to put this nail polish on and perform wudu and pray?
You must be certain that the water reaches the skin, otherwise it's a problem.
I see.
I think one of the ulama mentions that if there's only a dot, a bit of water not reaching the skin, then of course that, let's say, ghusl would be batil. So you have to make sure that the water reaches all the parts of the body, be it ghusl or wudu. You have to be certain, otherwise you can't.
Sheikh, living in United Kingdom, especially in London, parking is a nightmare. Sometimes we're driving around and we find places where people put no parking signs. To be fair, it's a low curve, it's a driveway and so forth, and they just want 24-hour access to their driveway. Islamically speaking, am I allowed to park my car that blocks someone's driveway? Or do I have to park it somewhere public and it's not a nuisance to anyone?
Well, if by the norms, by the urf, this spot is known to be as a forbidden, let's say, zone, and this, let's say, driveway is only for, you cannot park in front of the driveway. This is something known by, let's say, by the law or...
It's common law, yeah, it's
exactly.
common practice.
So in this case, no, they can't go against this ruling and park in front of the driveways. This is allocated to drive in or out, but you can't block the driveway, of course. That's not accepted.
More questions coming in from our viewers from YouTube. Can I buy posters that have women actors' pictures on them for my home decorating? Wow. Sheikhna.
Of course, this is something we have to avoid. We have to avoid.
You can get calendars as well, Sheikhna, I think.
Especially if they are non-hijabi women wearing indecent clothes, for example. Let's say it's a singer or an actress. One should avoid any, let's say, picture or a video that would arouse the lust in somehow. Let's put the pictures of the haram of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, the holy shrine of Karbala, of Najaf,
All the ulama.
all the zarih, I mean, let's fill the house with the blessings of Muhammad Ali Muhammad, with verses of the Holy Quran, Surah Yasin. Let's hang on the wall these that brings barakah and protection for the house from the Satans, from the devils, from all types of evil that we might face in the future.
You always put your wife's picture up as well if you want. Sheikh, another question coming from one of the viewers. Salam, Sheikhna. I wondered if it's true in terms of fiqh, a word kafir applies to every non-Muslim. But isn't kafir meaning the one who knows the truth but is purposely ignoring it? How about non-Muslims who are ignorant about Islam? Are they kafir too?
You see, the word kafir has been used in different stages and levels and phases. In surah, one of the surah, we have the ayah about the Hajj, that the Hajj has been mandatory upon the one who is mustati', who is able to go, capable to go. Otherwise, he'll be kafara, وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ. ومن كفر. So the one who, let's say, not to become read kafir, but you have the ability and the means to go to Hajj, but you don't go to Hajj. So there's some kind of levels for the kufr, even within the mu'mineen, the Muslims. But not, of course, as a hukum of kafir to be najis and so forth. So there are levels and stages for the meaning of the kufr or kafir. Of course, non-Muslims mentioned in the Holy Quran, كفر الذين قالوا إن الله ثالث ثلاثة. Those who say Allah is the three, kafar. And kufr means is to hide the true identity of something, the true belief. You're hiding the true God by saying that the God is three.
I see.
You're hiding. That's what the kufr means, is to hide the truth. So, yeah, I mean, different meanings with the word of kafir, but anyhow, this is what Quran mentions about those who don't believe in, the true Allah Azza wa Jalla, the true God meaning, and the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Alaikum salam. So it's nice when they say salam. I missed Isha Salah, for example. Do I have to make it up qadha in another Isha time, or can I make it up Dhuhr time, for example?
No, you can pray next day, let's say, in the morning, Dhuhr time, with the intention of qadha. So you wake up in the morning, 8 a.m., for example, and you want to pray qadha, yes, you can pray it. Not necessarily to wait till next day Isha and pray in the Isha time. You can pray anytime.
Sheikh, I heard that even after 12 and before Fajr, Isha doesn't technically go qadha. It goes into a different state, and you can still pray it. Is that true?
In some opinions, and there are some conditions with it, yes.
Oh, fair.
Of course,
Fair enough. From YouTube, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Salam.
As part of a world exhibition, can non-hijabi female staff be working, promoting the brand if dress is not decent?
Of course, we have in the Holy Quran, again, the verse which says, do not support the indecency, the ithim. The word ithim mentioned. Don't spread the ithim. Don't spread indecency. So we're not allowed to actually promote indecency at all by the means of leaflets, promotions, videos, and so forth. We have to use the halal means to do so.
Indeed. From YouTube, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How to control on nigah in na mahram? I think that's looking at na mahram. How to control?
As the Quran mentioned in those verses, that to lower your gaze, and for both sides, for both genders, to lower your gaze. That's it. Allah gave you, many ways to protect yourself from looking at the haram, and even backbiting. You have the lips, you have the teeth. You close them to avoid slandering or swearing or backbiting. So just lower your gaze and tawakkal Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah will reward you, inshallah.
Inshallah. From WhatsApp, is it permissible to listen to religious songs in praise of Ahlul Bayt that are accompanied with music? I think the most famous one is in our community. We have Qawwali music, which is like poetry in honor of the Prophet, in honor of the Imam, and so forth. And there's drums and harmoniums, and it's very, very old, traditional, 500-600-year-old custom that we have in Pakistan. That's one of the main ones. And there's probably loads all over the world in praise of the Ahlul Bayt, in praise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, accompanied by music. Is it okay to listen to this, Sheikhna?
I've explained previously about the ulama's opinion about music in overall, that we have one side, ulama, who would forbid all types of music that is played through these famous instruments like piano, guitar, and so forth. So all types of music are haram to be used or to be listened. And you have the other type of, or the other opinion of the ulama, like Atul Sistani, which says that differentiates between the entertaining music and the classical music. So he would not allow and forbids the entertaining music like jazz, rock, and so forth. And he would allow for the classical music, which is not for the purpose of, entertaining music. But the recommendation always is that do not mix the music, even if it's a classical music, with the anashid, with the noha, with Islamic rituals and so forth. Try to distance and avoid it. Because many ulama in the past and even present, they have forbid even the classical music. So at least we have to be in that side, that we don't mix it with the anashid and the manqabat and so forth. Try to avoid it. We have other means to do so. I think vocal, voices and so forth we can use.
From YouTube, Sheikh, how to increase your memory power. I heard hifz is a very, very strong way to improve your memory. Certain ayah as well, I believe. Surah Al-Qadr helps with your memory. Surah Al-Kawthar also helps with memory and so forth. But you know better, Sheikh. Now, what is a good way to...
What is mentioned in the narration is to eat 21, I think, black or red raisins each morning.
Okay.
Yeah, that's mentioned. So
wow.
to be consumed.
Berries. Nice.
One of the ways. Yeah.
From YouTube, can I drive my girl classmate from uni to her house for thawab, because otherwise she needs to pay for the bus and we both have the same way home? Sheikh, a very interesting question there. Very common. Sometimes we have a classmate, it could be even a work colleague, they're on the way home. You know, is it okay for me to drop them off?
You see, the problem is it starts with the intention of thawab, but gradually ends up in committing haram. That's the problem. And Satan is very strong in these. Although it's not some kind of seclusion or khalwa that we can say it's haram. It's on the streets, you have people around you, you know, they can see them. But in anyhow, that would, because it's opposite gender, that would in somehow might, you know, raise some issues in the near future.
Is it haram, or are we exercising prevention is the best cure?
The best thing is to avoid it.
Okay.
You know, I can't tell you it's haram, that's it. No. You know, it starts with a good intention, as I've said. You want to drop somebody to somewhere. But sometimes it ends with a bad ending and haram ending. But in overall, one should try to find different ways in terms of methods to, let's say, drop this individual. In somehow, if you have a third person, maybe that would also help. So you have to try find a way in which you can help. And it's not always that's, you know, if she can find somebody else, a female colleague, for example, to drop her, that would be better even.
Just a quick reminder to all the viewers that this is a live show. We do take in your questions. If you have any question you'd like to ask, please send them in via the WhatsApp. The number's there at the bottom. You get the QR code there in the corner. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section. Inshallah, the technical team will send them to me on my iPad here. And if you'd like to call us in, 0203 515 0199. If you're international, call the WhatsApp number. We'll put you through. And inshallah, you can ask your question to the Sheikh. Sheikhna, would the animals such as an elephant or a bear be rendered tahir if they were slaughtered according to Islamic tradition?
Yes, indeed, if they were slaughtered or hunted in the Islamic way and method, you know, let's say, saying the Bismillah and all the criterion of the zabiha or the hunting, Islamic hunting, then of course that animal would be tahir. But of course you can't consume it, you can't eat an elephant. When in terms of the najasa, that would of course waived because now you have a tahir animal and not a najis animal. It's not a dead corpse.
Do we have to cut ties and relations with those who commit sins and refrain from meeting and talking to them? If that was the case, Sheikh, I would have no friends. We don't talk to anybody, even family members.
In this day and age, because there's lots of rumors and distortion of Islamic image, sadly, because of the many issues, because of the treatment of some of the Islamic governments against the people, forcing their, let's say, hijab, forcing, punishing people because of not applying certain rules and so forth. That caused basically many people would leave Islam, sadly, and be even against Islam and its teachings. So the best way is to basically guide those individuals and try to basically be friend with them and explain the situation. I've seen many even ladies who previously never wore hijab, but now they're wearing hijab because they came in the majalis of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, majalis of Quran and Hadith. And gradually they became, alhamdulillah, part of the mu'mineen and mu'minat. So we have to try to deal with these issues بالتي هي أحسن, as the Quran mentions. وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي أَحْسَنُ. Use the best and the right method to attract the individual towards Islam and its teachings.
From WhatsApp, can I lie to my future husband about my past? Well, there's nothing to say, Sheikh. You
shouldn't say anything about the past. It's something private. Because if you want to say, well, I used to have, let's say, a couple of girlfriends, for example, that's going to ruin your life with your, let's say, missus, with your wife. Or I used to drink, مثلا. No, Allah Azza wa Jal is the one that you have to confess to if you had a bad and sinful past. Honor to Allah Azza wa Jal and ask His forgiveness. And that's it. You have to open a new page, white page, and start a new life and forget the future. Of course, you have to repent to Allah Azza wa Jal and try not to do these things again. But as I've said, you're not compelled or forced to talk about your past. Whatever is the past, it's your choice.
Fair. What is the ruling for canned foods like carousels, vegetables, if they were produced in non-Islamic countries?
Well, these, if they were actually vegetables, so vegetarian, let's say, they should be fine. So there should be no meat within these cans, especially produced or made in non-Islamic countries like Europe and China and America. Vegetables should be fine, but meat food would be, of course, ishkal, because they came from non-Muslim countries, so they have to avoid it.
Fine. Sheikh, now we're going to go to a short break. Join us after the break as we continue our discussion here on Ahkam SOS.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of scholars.
Is it permissible to plant trees by or
Was
over
Islam
the
established based on peace and
Is it
non-violence?
permissible to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it permitted to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim countries?
Is there an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, WhatsApp us on +44 7415 09 2155.
Welcome back to Ahkam SOS. And yes, you can send in your questions via the WhatsApp. QR code is right there. The phone number should be down there as well. You can send in your questions if you're watching on YouTube Live or Facebook Live. In the comment section, put your question in, and inshallah, the technical team will send it towards me. If you want to call in, 0203 515 0199 if you're in the UK. And outside of the UK, you can use the WhatsApp number. Just call that number in, and we can ask your question straight to the Sheikh. Coming in from WhatsApp, Sheikh now. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Can a wife divorce her husband due to sex-related and other health issues? Now, Sheikhna, we've discussed this before, that intercourse and being intimate with your spouse, whether it is the wife with the husband or the husband with the wife, that is a right that belongs to both parties in the marriage. And for the female, if that right is not given to her, is she allowed to walk away from the marriage? And other health issues. Now, it's not saying if it's sexually related health issues, but let's say, the person was diabetic, or maybe has a disease that is contagious, which she didn't know about, or if there's mental health issues that she wasn't aware of. Schizophrenia is a very, very serious issue in our community. And imagine if a sister got married to a husband who had schizophrenia, and she wasn't aware of it, she wasn't told this, and his mental health makes him aggressive and violent and so forth. Are these grounds for having a divorce?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Well, the best thing is to go back to the office of your local mosque, for example, that deals with marriages and divorces and family disputes and so forth. An individual who is expert in this field to deal with the issue, because some of these you mentioned requires divorce if she wanted to divorce and separate, and some of them just needs separation, which means fasakh, just to separate without divorce. So you have to see the right person, and you have to explain the situation, exactly what is the problem.
So you get the right advice as well.
Exactly what is the problem and what is the reason for your separation. Does it need divorce or just separation without divorce?
Yeah.
So you have to see an expert in this field, inshallah.
Inshallah, I always see someone qualified as well and knows what they're talking about. From WhatsApp, Sheikh, assalamu alaikum. Is a newborn baby, their urine, is it najis?
No, the urine is najis. I mean, we don't have urine which is tahir from the human being, except, exceptions in terms of the ma'asumin alayhim salam. But other than that, I mean, it's all najis. Now, in terms of purification, once or twice, that's the issue mentioned.
Sheikhna, what is the ruling for learning butchery and cookery in vocational college in Europe, given that the individual may be given a pig to slaughter or cook its meat and serve it as it is customary here? Sheikhna, apart from the United Kingdom, we're quite lucky here. The main meat that is eaten here is actually beef. However, in other parts of Europe, whether it be Spain, France, even Germany and far Eastern Europe, Romania, Bulgaria and places like that, pork is the main meat that they like to consume. So if I'm going to a culinary school to learn how to cook, especially French cooking and so forth, not just pork, but they're going to give me frogs and snails and sometimes rabbit and God knows what. People like to eat crocodile and stuff like that. Me learning how to cook and learning a chef, what difficulties will I come across, and is it halal for me to actually attend this school and learn these techniques?
Well, if there's no intention to serve it to the person, even if he's not Muslim, then there should be no harm. What is important that you don't serve it on the table.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the back of the, let's say, restaurant, in the kitchen, for example, preparing or cooking or just learning, for example. What is forbidden is to serve it on the table. That's the issue.
But normally, Sheikhna, what happens is you cook, they'll put it out, and the whole class will have a little taste to see how well you cooked it and so forth, if it was good, if it was bad, and this and that. Is there a problem there?
Don't serve it yourself. Just leave it, yes.
Okay, get someone else to serve it, and just leave it on the side.
Don't serve it, yeah.
Nice. Sheikhna, is it mandatory to prevent the non-believer from entering the mosque if it is intended for exploring or learning about Islam?
You see, it's not permissible even for a Muslim, man or woman, to enter the mosque without purity. In other words, if the man is in the state of janabah, and likewise the woman, or in her monthly cycle again, they cannot enter the mosque at all unless they are purified by ghusl and so forth. And the same applies to the non-Muslims as well. They cannot enter the mosque because they are not purified to go inside the mosque. So this rule applies to the Muslims and the non-Muslims again. Depends on their situation, of course. And of course, one can actually use different methods to guide them. If they want to know about the mosque, they can see from outside, for example, or study, watch videos and so forth. Because there's nothing inside the mosque, it's just a big venue and there's a mihrab. And so they can actually read about Islam in a different way and study Islam without entering the mosque, for example.
Whoever is certain that he has done ablution or wudu invalidator and is certain that he has performed wudu, but he does not know whether the ablution is after the invalidator or not, so he can now can he know whether or not he is in a state of purity now? What should he do according to his eminence the Grand Ayatollah Sheikh Bashir Najfi?
You see, it's not permissible, according to the Sheikh, for the one to start salah and pray when you are not certain that you are purified from ghusl or wudu. You have to be certain you have the right ghusl or the right wudu, so you can start the worship, the ibadah. Otherwise, you cannot. You have to repeat your ghusl or wudu. I have to be certain that I performed the ghusl or I performed the wudu, so I can start praying. Otherwise, there's no meaning for me to start praying without certainty of purity.
Sheikhna, how do we perform? Under what circumstances can one abort his salah?
Well, in overall, it's not permissible for the one to abort his salah. You cannot abort your salah just because somebody, knocked on the door, for example. You want to open the door, for example, or your phone is ringing, let's say. You're not allowed to break your salah in this way. But of course, in terms of exceptions applied here as well, to protect yourself from a theft, or let's say from danger, physically, financially, yes, one can actually abort the salah to protect himself.
Sheikh, from WhatsApp, is it allowed to appreciate the beauty of someone from the opposite gender without lustful thoughts or intentions?
Again, it's one of the pathways towards the acts of haram. Again, shaitan plays a big role in terms of seducing and gradually
let's say
falling into the haram.
I got a nice haircut today, right? And a lot of the staff members were saying, mashallah, very nice haircut. If a female was to compliment me on my haircut, is this acceptable? Is this okay? Or, it's not lustful or that, she's just appreciating craftsmanship and I look quite handsome.
As I've said, one should avoid any type of statements or acts or behaviors that would eventually makes one to fall into the haram, because she might say to you, next day, how do I look? For example. So one should avoid these kinds of comments or these kinds of statements that would eventually, because the whole idea is it's preventing the acts of haram, and that could happen with a let's say with a statement, with a joke cracking, for example, with anything that would open and pave the way towards the acts of haram eventually. And we don't want to accumulate haram and sins every day. What we have is enough, So we try to avoid, you have to calculate it somehow to see if this is appropriate or not appropriate. You have to, we have to have that knowledge, or let's say that taqwa and piety to able to balance what we do every day, inshallah.
Sheikh, in the case of the one who suffers from incontinence, which is the inability to control one's bowels or bladder, if one knows that his condition allows him enough time to perform the wudu and salah during the prescribed time of the salah, what should he do?
Such conditions, they have to try to avoid performing the mustahab acts of the salah. So he would straight away start the salah without any mustahab acts, just perform and recite the wajib surah and dhikr in the salah. Let's say ignore the qunut, for example, which is mustahab in salah, and try to finish quickly as well to avoid any najasa leaking and so forth.
Question coming in from YouTube, Sheikh. My husband leave me hanging 7 years ago, and I have to be asking favor, and it's so embarrassing. What to do? I need help. I am 60 years old with 2 daughters who I have to watch over. I need husband for them.
Definitely, you have to go back to and raise the issue to the Ahkam SOS, which is your marja. Go back to the office, contact them, and arrange a visit or meeting with the mulana, whoever is in charge of, the issues of marriages and divorces and marital disputes, to be able to resolve this issue, and they can actually get some kind of hukum from the marja to divorce you without even the presence of the husband who left her for 7 years.
Sheikh, how do you perform the irthamasi or ghusl by immersion? Now in Hawza we were taught there was 2 ways. There's the one where you're walking into the water, and there's the one when you're in the water and you maybe put part of your body out, maybe normally the hand, and then you make your knee, and then you go fully in. But how do you perform the irthamasi ghusl?
Well, you have to make sure you go inside the water, like diving inside the water. All the body should be inside the water. Within 1, 2, 3 seconds, you make the intention of the ghusl irtimasi, and that's it. What is important that you have to make sure that all the body, becomes wet with with this type of
water touches every
immersion.
Part of the body.
Exactly. So that's important. You don't miss any part of it.
You see, I can understand if we're in the river, if we're by the beach, by the sea, and so forth. But can we do this in the swimming pool?
Yes, indeed. Yes, you can.
Isn't the chlorine? Isn't the water considered mixed?
The water is clear, unless it's like muddy. That's of course the different issue.
Smell? No,
it's fine. It's fine.
So you can do it in the swimming pool as well.
Exactly.
Oh Okay, makes life a bit easy for me. Sheikhna, is theft from a non-believer permissible?
No, it's not permissible. It's haram. You cannot.
Wow.
These are people with the rights. They own their belongings. They've bought it with their own money, with their own efforts.
So a Muslim doesn't have a right.
You
over
have to
those.
respect other people's belongings and privacy as well. So you can just, because they're not Muslims, you can. Na'udhu billah.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. I live in the West out of compulsion, and I have sons and daughters, some of whom are baligh and some are not. The schools are mixed, and education is mandatory until the age of 17. At school, they are taught various subjects, including Bible studies and mixed sports lessons, but they do not prohibit hijab. Is there objections to them continuing their education to advanced stages up to the university level?
You see, what is important that we have to start from home, educating the Islamic teachings and Holy Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam from home. Also to be able to attend weekly sessions, let's say on the weekends, to learn Quran and Arabic language, for example, to learn Ahkam of Islam, how to pray, how to do ghusl. All these Ahkam need to be taught for those who are especially in the age of bulugh and adolescence. We have to work on them. It's difficult. It's hard. The environment is against us. It's not with us. The atmosphere is not with the religious people in overall, even non-Muslims. So we have to work very hard and talk to them, teach them, advise them, and one of the best places to bring them is to bring them in the Husainiyat and Imam Bargas and the mosques.
Yes.
To attend the majalis of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, to listen to these advices and admonishments of the Mawlanas and ulama, inshallah.
Inshallah. Sheikhna, is it permissible to work in a company whose owner is a non-Kitabi, given that the company does not deal with prohibited products and there is currently no alternative Muslim employer?
No, there's no issue with it. I mean, we have millions of Muslims working in big companies, in giant companies owned by non-Muslims around the world. There's no issue with it, no. Even if it's governmental positions, of course. In some cases, one needs the permission from the marja to be able to work in that governmental post, for example, with the permission from the marja. They can do so as well. So it's not that complicated as one may think.
From YouTube, Sheikhna, can I smell the alcohol or wine deeply?
Why do we need to smell the alcohol? I mean, one should refrain from even smelling.
Maybe it smells nice, Sheikhna.
I mean, we have a narration that the Imam says that if I know that this piece of land was, watered or fed by alcohol or wine, and then I have a plant grown, I wouldn't eat from that plant to this extent. So one should distance themselves from haram, even by smelling, even by looking, let's say.
Sheikh, from WhatsApp, some people used to steal electricity power supply by making some modifications in their meter. Is it permissible?
According to Ayatollah Sistani, no, you cannot go against the law of the land, the laws and the conditions and terms of those companies that offer you these services. You have to pay the full bill of water, electricity, gas, and so forth, and without any cheating or deception. Because Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who sustains us. The rizq comes from Allah Azza wa Jal, not from my own cheating and deception. Na'udhu billah.
Sheikh, if one doubts whether or not he has performed the ghusl of janaba, what would be his ruling?
As I've said before, you have to make sure that you're pure and tahir from the ghusl. If not, you have to do the ghusl again. It becomes wajib to perform the ghusl again because you're not certain. Because you're not certain, you have to do the ghusl again. And the same applies to wudu. I'm not sure if I have wudu. Shall I start the salah? No. You have to perform the wudu and then start the salah. If you're uncertain, you cannot start your salah without being certain that you have performed the wudu. You have to be sure that you're pure, tahir, in terms of ghusl, and you have performed wudu, so you can actually start the salah.
Sheikhna, shaking hands with a non-mahram woman is haram for a man. But this sometimes causes embarrassment for the observant Muslim man in Europe. For example, in business and in official dealings, when a woman reaches to handshake, if one refrains to do it, so it might cause offense and it might even reflect negatively on the conduct and outcome. What is the ruling for shaking hands in these circumstances?
In the case of compulsion, one can actually wear gloves and shake hand with the gloves without pressing, of course, because, I mean, if you have no choice, then this is the, let's say, the last resort in terms of...
Yeah, but Sheikhna, we live in a world which is very, very, what's the word? Open to other cultures and customs. And the West does a lot of dealings with Muslims, whether they're from the Middle East or other parts of Asia and so forth. A lot of business owners and corporate, they understand that not everyone will shake hands. It is very, very common in the Jewish community that, I had a friend who was working in a Jewish school as a technician to fix the computers and so forth. He was told before he went to the school, do not shake hands with ladies. If you offer, they will not shake your hand. So don't even attempt to even raise your hand to them and so forth. So people are quite accustomed to it. They're quite knowledgeable. Meaning, do we really need to start wearing gloves? Do we really need to start, being apologetic about it? Can we not just say, I'm very sorry, but my faith doesn't allow me to shake hands with the opposite gender? Hope you can understand and respect that. And another one is that we've seen it so many times when they reach out and the man will just put his hand on his chest or something and then give a little bow or something as a nice gesture of acknowledgement and appreciation as well.
As I've just said, as a last resort, I'm just trying to make life easier for some people who feel embarrassed, they cannot explain the situation. They could be even sacked for this gesture, for example. So as a last resort, that out of compulsion and difficulty, one can actually use the gloves instead. Otherwise, of course, if you can explain the situation, even before the interview, let's say, job interview, write to them or phone them and tell them that I'm not going to be able to shake hands because of, it's like protocols between the countries. Let's say some Muslim countries, when they visit, the officials visit non-Muslim country, they would tell them, we're not going to shake with your females.
We won't eat this food or that food, and they'll give them a whole thing.
There are more than 20 Muslim countries in the world. We're not a small minority in the world. Over 1 billion.
We're probably the biggest suppliers
and
of
a half
as well.
Or 2 billion Muslims, or almost a quarter or less or more of the world's population. So we have to also show our aqidah and be able to practice it openly anywhere in the world. We can see sadly today that there are, pride marches for the same gender. With proud, they would go out and with their own flags and show that this is our, belief and our way of life, and nobody can say anything. So it's sad to see that Muslims cannot actually be able to implement their aqidah and their ahkam openly after being in the West for more than half a century at least.
Fair. Sheikh, I think we've got time for just a couple more questions before we go. Does lack of concentration invalidate the prayer?
It depends what's the level of lack of concentration. It depends, if I can't really give the answer.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
We'll move on to next week. If a dog licks my body or clothes, how should I purify it? Use water?
Just water, yeah.
And I married the same person both in Christianity and Islam, and it is hard when coming to divorce on the Christianity side. Is it a problem? I don't understand that question. Can you rephrase that, and inshallah we're able to discuss that on the next episode, which will be Monday here on Imam Hussein TV. Thank you very much, Sheikh, for all your time and for your efforts, and thank you to all the viewers that have been joining us on this episode of Ahkam SOS. If you have a question you'd like to send in, please send it via the WhatsApp. The QR code is there. The phone number is there on the bottom. If you're watching on Facebook Live or on YouTube, put your question in the comment section, and inshallah, we'll roll these questions over to the next episode, which will be Monday, 7 p.m. here on Imam Hussein TV3. Thank you very much and see you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
I am a symbol of faith and a symbol of hope. None can compare to my